Welcome, welcome, one and all, back to another video, and today I thought we'd take a look at something a little bit interesting. If you can hear that, that is the sound of music to my ears, although it's sort of blasphemous when you see what it is. Now this is a very interesting thing here. You can see these orange tags. I got this from my local Goodwill because I saw it and I just could not resist. This is a Lego set, but it's actually made by Subaru, specifically InDesign. So they were using this to promote the 2019-2020 Subaru Ascent. But we're going to take a look at this, we're going to do a speed build, and then we're going to do a little bit of review, just to get an idea of what they feel like, having taken a look at a lot of different off-brands of Lego. See if this is actually worth your money if you can find any one of these, and how good the model is, how accurate it is to that picture. So looking at these instructions here, you can obviously see the reflections going on. It's pretty glossy here. Feels pretty high quality. Oh, it comes with a brick separator? That's interesting. There are extra bricks for replacing any missing pieces. They give you extra pieces too? As a guy who makes his own instructions for Lego sets that I sell, I could certainly attest to the difficulty in making instructions, so these are pretty comparable to Lego's instructions, I would say. So they didn't really cheap out and use some free software. There's definitely some non-standard building techniques used in this set, which will be interesting to explore. But they really did steal from all the different Lego sets. If you look here, you can even see in both gray and white here the same exact model, it appears, for Lego's gold bars. You can see that's their same hinge design. Yeah, this is looking a little bit like they shouldn't have done this. That's the instruction book. So let's open up the pieces and build this. So here we have the 2019-2020 InDesign's buildable Subaru Ascent opened up and out of its packaging, and finally ready for review. And what a review this is going to be. It says 6 plus, which I think is highly BS, but whatever. That is a complete lie. It is not that transparent. This is what that brick separator looks like. This is probably the only piece that I'll be keeping. I see nothing wrong with using the wrong brick separator on your Lego stuff. It's not bad. It's got its uses. It almost looks like it's got a little like lanyard point on it, so that might be why I keep it on me. So here's the Subaru, fully built up. You can see it's got some decent shaping around it. It sort of helps mimic a lot of those vents and curves going through. This is where the Subaru logo will go on the Ascent logo. Coming around to the side, you can see the 2 doors. The side lights here, which does have a 3-color light system, which isn't bad. No actual windows here, but there's the suggestion of them, and I'm okay with that. Coming around to the back, you can see the tail lights, which it's a little weird that they stick out like that, but I think that's actually what the original car is, so that's more of the Subaru problem than the buildable model problem. On the top, it's got a bit of a glass window there. As you can see, it's nowhere near as transparent as they make it out to be in the pictures. In terms of features that you can use, first of all, this does have an opening roof. I believe this is intended to be a feature. They don't have any feature showcase like Lego sets do, but I would assume that the roof is intended to come off because it's only held in by 2 studs. 1 stud here and 1 stud on the back here for the majority of the roof, and then there's like 2 studs for this other section of the roof. So really it's just a combination of about 4 studs that holds the roof in place. It's not very easy to get the roof off, ironically, even though it's only a couple studs, because most of the back section is only held on with a couple studs, which I think is an oversight, but whatever. You can't take the roof off. They have little grooves and gaps in them. They just sit on the sides of the car. Take a look at the interior, which is admittedly pretty respectable. The seats are done up in a pretty reasonable amount of detail, and they have some articulation on them. They can't move too much. Here's one of the seats from the car. I've just taken it out of the back here. You can see how it's constructed. It's not as sturdy as I'd like it to be. There's a little bit of Widowmaker going on where these pieces aren't held in as nicely. There's no real reinforcement there. Reasonably respectable. It gets the general idea of the seat across. The build quality of the actual pieces, I'll talk about it now, is better than most off-brands that I have ever seen before, but certainly not up to Lego standards. Now while we have this off, we'll go ahead and showcase a couple other things. We'll show you the interior here, which it's going to be hard for you to see. It does have pedals, or the suggestion of pedals on the bottom there. Really, you could just kind of make out the black outline of them. There's a center console here with what I believe is the suggestion of a computer screen here and done in blue. A couple small details there with the shift knob, which I despise on modern cars. But decent amount of foot room in here, so you could probably get one of the older, large Max figures in here. See the wing mirrors here. In terms of other features and accessories, I suppose he has a trunk. I don't know if I really would call this a trunk, but if you move the seats out of the way, he can put, like, skilled golf clubs back there. Not too much, though. There's really not that much room with this 3rd row. But he has opening doors. They're designed horribly, so they stick really bad when you try and open them. Well, they do have all 4 doors that open. I'd say the other 3 doors are okay in terms of their hinges, so all the doors can open. You can see just how terribly they're built here. There's no other reinforcement there. That's literally the 1 stud. And of course, they go back about as fluidly as a dinosaur trying to squeeze inside of a toilet bowl. It does have an opening hood, but if you're not careful, the hood will just rip right off. It's not built very well. You can see there's a big case of Widowmaker right here. A lot of hanging panels. See, that just comes right off. Part of that's down to the build quality of the actual pieces. Part of that is just down to the build quality of the actual build. But the hood does open. When you have the roof on, it'll actually push the roof back. It gets in the way of the A-pillars. It's kind of funny. And then we come to the best part of the car, I would say, which is the engine. Here's what the engine looks like. It's a pretty respectable build, I'm not gonna lie. The build quality of the pieces makes it more fragile than it should be, honestly. It's a pretty decent build. It's got a good suggestion of mufflers going on and some of the pipes at the back. Bar going through the middle. It's pretty respectable, I would say. So that's really all there is in terms of features. Technically, it's a hatchback, so it has a hatch lid that opens. That's about far as the hatch will open, which is probably as much room as you need considering that there's barely any trunk in there. But now, the wheels, it rolls. However, every single wheel will push up against all the plastic in the wheel well. There is no room for wiggle there, so it looks nice and smooth and rolls decent. Here, even here has issues, but it's not bad. But the minute you put it on the ground, you can just feel the plastic scraping against it. I'm not putting any weight on this either. It's just the weight of the car bearing down on that. So that's going to definitely leave grooves in it over time. So now what we need to do, since we've given you a general overview of the car, is we need to discuss some of its quirks and features. Issue number 1. There is a lot of Widowmaker techniques used in this build that I do not approve of. In general, there's a real lack of build quality. Like, these are on a single stud, this is single stud, that's single stud. The biggest problem is this back section. As you can see if you look at the back here, here that it has a relatively decent subframe here. This whole back section is attached just back here, so all of this is built up at the back and supports the whole roof, apart from, I guess, these here. These don't really do much. All this is attached here. All of this comes out and cantilevers over, and there is nothing. You can look right through the car. There's nothing holding that in place. So it's all cantilevered. You can see how much it rocks. These hubcaps, these 1x1 rounds here, are not attached in any way. They're just friction fit on there, and they're barely even in there to begin with. If you're not careful, a gust of wind might knock them off. These wing mirrors constantly get messed up and fall off. The doors stick very badly when you try to open them. There's a lot of give in the wheels. There's also way too much give up and down, which contributes to that rolling problem. The pieces all try and force themselves apart, so you see a lot of irregular gaps and pieces that are turned in annoying ways, especially when you look at the top here. You can just see how misaligned all of these are. And there's just no way about that. These are so hard to get turned and looking nice. You can see how there's lots of irregular gaps on these surfaces, surfaces here. All real surfaces where panels and pieces line up next to each other. There's a lot of irregular gaps. It just doesn't make things any better. A lot of this subframe did not want to stay together for the longest time. Now that there's a lot of weight on it, it holds together decently well, but especially in the beginning, all of this subframe just kept coming off. And it's a real struggle to put this thing together, so I would not recommend this for 6-year-olds. I would definitely recommend this for someone who has a bit more muscle strength. If you're somebody who likes Mega Bloks, things like that, if you're not very brand specific and you're looking for a pretty good parts pack, this is a pretty good parts pack. And again, most of the pieces themselves aren't too bad. And if you've been dealing with off-brands already and you kind of had to go through that process of, all right, this piece is too loose, throw this out, this piece is too tight, whatever, keep that. And if you have to sort of sort them out that way, this will be right up your alley. And again, compared to most off-brands, this is pretty good. I would say this ironically isn't as good as the 3D printed ones that I find at the dollar store, which we'll be doing a review on soon, but these are not terrible. I think that it's worth picking up, especially if you can find it someplace like I did at Goodwill for very little money. So that is the 2020 InDesign Subaru Ascent Buildable Car Kit, and this is X saying thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.